Good evening, everyone. My name is Bhuvan, and I'm the ML lead at GDSC JSSSTU. I'd like to welcome you all to today's intro session to Open Source and Hacktoberfest. In today's session, we will be going through open source, Git, Hacktoberfest, and lastly, a few exciting projects that you can all contribute to. Today's speakers are Manu Sreshta, the web dev lead, Shivam, the cybersecurity lead, and Abhilash Hathwar, the web dev lead at GDSC JSSSTU. Before we start, I'd like to request the participants to ask their queries, either by typing them out in the chat box or by turning their mic on. Secondly, there will be a lot of information relayed in the upcoming slides, but fret not. These slides will be server, so please make sure you're part of that. Now, I invite Manu to speak about open source.
I'm sorry. Very good evening, one and all. Sure, the Bhuvan must have given a good introduction. So today we'll be learning about what exactly is open source and Hacktoberfest and the projects. So firstly, today let's know what's open source exactly. With a quote by Philip Kahan that open source, is a power of people. It's by the people, from the people. Exactly how democracy works. So democracy is for the people, by the people, to the people, right? So open source is similar. It is built by the people, it is maintained by the people, it's used by the people. So a bit of prologue onto that. We all know that we all love free software. Free software is something which we all look into. Suppose we go into Play Store and Application Store, App Store on iOS. We look, the first thing which we look is for the pricing of the application. If it is free to install, we are happy. But if it is not, there are situations where we look for the modded application or cracked application. So free software is something which we all like. The internet, in a few recent years, it has eased the distribution of software. Distribution meaning that sharing and installation. Remember when there were used to be times when we used to install a game or software, for example, a printer software, only with its custom CDs and pen drives. That's how we used to install and share the software. But nowadays, with the help of internet, it's just sharing the file and installing. It has been made easy. So, but for those softwares, we can categorize them. Nowadays, as I told, with internet improving, there's a lot of plethora of softwares. So basically, we can categorize them under three types. The first one being the commercial, shareware, and open source, as you can see on the slide. So what are commercial products? Commercial software products are those which come with a price. So if you have to own the software or if you have to run the software, you need to subscribe and pay for it, and only after which you'll be getting the software. Examples include the antivirus software which we all use, maybe Kaspersky or the Avast antivirus, McAfee. They all get you only if you pay the subscription for their full version, and that's how you'll be getting it. Second one being this shareware software. Shareware softwares are those for which you'll be getting the initial product, but only after you pay a certain amount of maybe price or for any royalties, you'll be getting the later parts. That is, certain features will be hidden from you, for which you'll be have to pay. Next comes open source, which we'll be talking today. So open source softwares. Open source softwares basically means the code is available for all. You know the code, you can have the code, you can make the best use of it. So here you can see various categories under which open source can be licensed, which is free to redistribute, meaning that you can have the code, you can distribute it to anyone, but under certain licenses and categories or restrictions. Source code, as I told, it will always be freely available. You can view the code and you can build your code upon it. Modification and derivations allowed. This I'll try to help with an example. Let's consider Android OS. Android OS is an open source software, but we also know there are many brands which run on Android, but not purely Android. For example, Google and Motorola, they use almost nearly 100% Android, native Android. But if we have brands like Samsung, Vivo, or Oppo, they have their base kernels on the Android, but they use the modified or derived versions of it to make added any features or developments. So that's how open source helps them. Although they are all the same, but they can be differently used. So no restrictions on who uses the code. Once you have the license or you have the access to the code, you can make any use of it. But it should not harm the main code of it. So here are few types of licenses. Few types of licenses are most popular one include GNU and MITx license and GPL and BSD. So if you have worked on GitHub or anywhere, you could have seen that you'll be given an option to license your source with an MITx or GNU. Maybe you guys would have heard about WordPress. So WordPress comes under GNU license. So that's also an open source software. It is licensed, which means there are certain restrictions and rules through which you can replicate or redistribute the software. So on your screen here are many popular open source products. So I think many of you must be knowing Android, as I told, Linux OS. Linux OS, which we have worked upon most of us. Linux OS itself is an open source code. It is 100% of its code is available. There are also versions built on it, but Linux OS is its basic code is available. Python language, I think it's the most popular language right now. You might be knowing that it has a number of modules, a number of libraries, only because that there is a huge community backed by the open source developers. MySQL database, Mongo database, WordPress development, Ruby on Rails, PHP, all these are famous softwares which you might have heard somewhere here and there, and also they're all open source. So now let's look at the advantages and what we actually gain from working on open source. So let's learn why should we contribute first of all. Open source software, it's an amazing tool. If you learn to contribute, it can help you a lot in learning and gaining a lot of knowledge. How? Let me explain. Suppose I'll give an example of a company. We all, anyway, in future, we all tend to work or create something, some new products. So let's assume a company. I'll give you a real life experience. It's not always that you'll be building a software from the scratch. There are many instances where you will have to work on existing products, existing softwares. You will have to reuse them. You will have to modify them. You will have to add new features, fix the bugs. That's when you'll be having to go through a lot of code. It's not one or two files or maybe few folders. Huge amount of folders and files will be there. Uh, for you to not feel new to that, open source will help you in that manner. If you start working on some maybe a code in open source, you have to try to fix some bugs. You'll get to know how to trace back the bug, how to replicate it. So all those things you'll get from open source without actually getting into a company. So this is like free experience. It's like free internship for you. As in when you get improved in your open source contribution, it's gonna definitely help you. So the second thing is uh, nowadays open source community is growing. It's already a huge community, but it's also been being recognized all through the world. Open source contributors are being invited to international fest. They have been given fellowships in various universities, in also in many colleges and companies as well. So contributing to open source will open you a lot of doors and opportunities, which you will be very keen to make the use of. Now coming to the advantages of open source software. Here are few main advantages. I'll explain you with examples. So the first one being security of the open source softwares. As you can see, we know that they suffer from very less vulnerabilities because let's take an example. Let's consider a company which is having a closed software. Company which is having a closed software, 3 to 4 cybersecurity. But for open source software, anybody who knows about the code and the bug can be an expert on it. So what do you think? If someone notifies an error, is it quicker and easier to fix it in an open source or closed source? Obviously open source, because firstly there are many number of developers with varying skill set and experience, so they can actually discuss and bring out the solution quicker. So that's how with each and every update, open source software is usually free from vulnerabilities. Features with the same thing. Features also, if you like to add a feature in suppose in a company, it'll go through a lot of cycles and software development process. But in an open source software, it is much easier, and usually you'll get a fix or a feature added very soon. Also, cost. We know that open source softwares are free, most of them, and you can just license it and use it for yourself. So it obviously have an upper hand over its counterpart. Community. So I might have mentioned all through already. Community is a main factor for open source software. Any open source software, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of developers who have worked or are still working through it. So that's how an open source software always have a leading advantage over its counterparts. So till now I explained you about the open source softwares. Here are few programs which encourage and provide you an opportunity for you to work on the open source programs. A few hot buzz including programs are GSOC. GSOC is known as Google Summer of Code. It's an internship kind of thing. Actually, you get paid for it. Working on open source happens once in a year. It's a great opportunity. It's for you to get into open source, and then you'll be working on many recognized companies. And working under Google is something considered very prestigious. Also, MLH fellowship. MLH is Major League Hacking, and it's one of the major hacking open source working programs. Also, FOSS Asia and GSOC. GSOC stands for Girls Script Summer, but exclusively for women. It encourages and promotes women in open source programs. So, as you all know, Digital Ocean Hacktoberfest. So, today's topic is going to be Hacktoberfest. So, Digital Ocean is a cloud company which organizes Hacktoberfest every year. More details on it will be given by Shivam, but do have it in your mind. DigitalOcean is a good cloud-based company. It provides you it's one of the leading Kubernetes solutions company. Also, if you want to know about how open source program exactly works, GDSC has organized an Hacktoberfest related repo even previous year. If you want to know about more repos and all, you can just go to GitHub and search for GDSC JSSSTU repo, and you'll be getting many folders and files there. There are a lot of projects which have been organized previous year. If you go through it, you'll be getting a good experience. So till now I was talking about how to work on open source and advantage. So now let's know about a person who is from our country, who is pride of our nation, Kunal Kushwaha. Is an Indian developer and YouTuber who has worked on open source for a long period of time. He's actually maybe an year or two elder, a couple of years elder to us, but he has gained a lot of reputation. He's gained a lot of experience. Not only has he learned from open source, but he is also teaching it back to the community. So Kunal was a computer science graduate. Right now, he's a computer science graduate. All through his college life, he didn't waste it. Actually, he made the best use of the college life like nobody can ever do any such thing, because he has maximized this efficiency. He gained a lot of experience in web, ML, open source, DevOps, the application development. And as I told, there are many international communities to felicitate you for working on open source. Just like that, he has gained internships from the Linux Foundation, the Red Hat, and the Coding Docs, to name a few. Right now, he is working as a DevOps developer advocacy at CO. Other feathers to his crown include being a GitHub campus expert, Microsoft Gold student learner, Major League Hacking. As I mentioned before, he was the top 50 participants of MLH in the previous year. So this is what participating and learning from open source can get you. I'm sure you'll all make the best use of this opportunity right now. There's legit a fest going on for that, to participate in open source thing. I think you all will be very interested and make the best use of it. So thank you for being part of this community. So if there's any queries or anything related to that, we'll be always here. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Manu. I'm sure the participants now have a good understanding of what open source is and how important it is for them. I'd now like to call Shivam to talk about Hacktoberfest and Git.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm Shivam here. I'm going to be talking to you more about Hacktoberfest and everything. I hope you guys are able to see my screen. I'm heard. Okay, so let's start with what is Hacktoberfest. Hacktoberfest is, as Manush just already told, it's hosted by DigitalOcean, which is a cloud company, a cloud solutions company since 2013. This year is the ninth edition of Hacktoberfest and it's been celebrated every year in a really, really large scale. So Hacktoberfest is basically like a starting point. Okay, it's a starting point for you to start into open source. It encourages participation. Okay, in participation in open source. Okay, you can contribute to anything you want, which is as part of Hacktoberfest, and it is open to everybody. There is no differentiation whether you can code or you can't code. There's something for everybody, and it encourages participation, giving back to the community. That's what open source is all about, and that's what Hacktoberfest stands for. Okay. Now, if you want to join Hacktoberfest, you need to go over to their website here, as linked here. You also need to have a GitHub account before you register for Hacktoberfest. GitHub account is basically it's a platform for where you guys can share code and collaborate with others. So make sure you have a GitHub account before starting here. Now let's look out on how, if you're interested and you want to go for it, how do you contribute? What is the procedure? Okay, so first of all, you start searching projects. You start searching with the Hacktoberfest tag. You can type it in the search bar in GitHub. You will get a list of projects which are participating in this year's Hacktoberfest. Seeing at the Hacktoberfest tag, okay, you can filter out by a language or whatever you're interested in. You can look at it there. Okay, so this mainly means that you need to make 4 successful contributions to any repository. Okay, what do I mean by 4 successful contributions, and what does this PR term mean? PR term means pull request, which I'll be talking about more later on. But it's basically 4 contributions to any repository. Every 14 days, the Hacktoberfest team reviews your contribution and whether if it's valid, then you get it becomes accepted and it's added to your tally. You need to make 4 to be successful in this. Also, once you make 4 successful contributions, what do you get? You get an option to either plant a tree virtually, that is done by DigitalOcean every year, or you can win exciting swags. Swags means goodies like t-shirts, stickers. I think you guys can see this t-shirt I'm wearing. This is what I got last year after I made my 4 successful contributions. There are many other things that you get. If you can see this, I've also got a few stickers, which is given by them. Really, really cute stickers. You guys can get all of this if you can participate and give some time to this. Okay. Moving on, what are the categories for this year? This year has 2 categories. One is code and no code. Code is basically any feature, anything you work on, whatever you code on, whichever language you prefer to. No code this year is a very new category which has been introduced. So open source is always, we always have that notion that if you can code, then only you can contribute to stuff. That is not at all true. This year, there is a new contribution, there's a new category where you can contribute to documentation, readmes that only mainly require creativity and your content writing skills. Okay. So this is more of creativity in no code. And if you also want to go through this year's detailed swag list, you can go through at this link too. This year also many companies give out cash prizes along with these swags too. You can look at them too. Now moving on, yeah, all the links will be given to you at the end of the session. All these things will be available, Sheikh. Okay. So moving on. So what are the good practices for this? What do you make sure that all your 4 contributions will be there, which is valid? Okay. So invalid contributions means that if you take any repository, for example, if you go to some repository and it's contributing something very basic, or it's like there's some description written like contribute here to get your 4 contributions done or get swag here, that is wrong. That is a repository which will get banned soon. So please look out for those repositories and do not contribute to that. Okay. And other things, other includes like these contribution guidelines. For example, if I go to a repository, okay, I change some code. I don't write any feature, but I just, put a space or put a semicolon. Okay. That is considered as a spam and invalid contribution. So that also, and also be very careful that if you guys do 2 spam or invalid contributions, you guys get disqualified. So be very careful of that. Read everything in the repository, read about the contribution guidelines, how to contribute to them, and make sure the quality of code is good. Okay, because that is paramount here. Okay. Now, these are the good practices. These are all the things you need to know when it comes to Hacktoberfest, what the event is all about. Now we'll be moving on to some prerequisites, which you guys need to know before moving on and contributing stuff. The first prerequisite is what is Git and what is GitHub. What is meant by version control system? Okay. So basically, version control system or Git in this through this, it means you can basically keep track of what you're doing in the file. Okay, over a period of time, if you're making any changes, version control system is a system running in the background which can keep track of all the changes you made to your files. Okay, anything you'll keep track of it. I'll show you more visually later what it means here. But let's move on with this. Why do we need these control systems? This is just in case, for example, you write some wrong code and you need to go back to your previous version. Okay, you need to have a backup. So version control systems are just merely a backup. So you can shift between different various revisions, or you can go to various versions and what you've written. Okay, you can also modify it very easily. If you want to go back somewhere, go forward somewhere, you can do that using version control systems. And obviously, this is used for collaboration with other people. Okay, so let's move on. Now mainly what is the basis of version control? Okay, it's JIT here, which is used worldwide, and we call it famously as the Swiss Army knife of version control, which is because everybody uses it and it's the bare minimum when it comes to contributing to GitHub or any other repository. This is what enables VCS nowadays. Okay, so now there will be a few commands here which will be given here in these slides, which will be shared to you later on. But this is just, just some commands you need to know before we move on, and before some terms you need to know before we move on to our contributions. So when you configure your JIT environment, the first thing you need to do is set your username and email address. You need to run these two commands to set up your username and email address, because it's very important so that so that JIT knows which person is making changes in the system. Okay. Now, there are three main important things in JIT. Okay, there are three stages that you need to know. Okay, so for example, you have taken a local repository of yours. Okay, so the first thing is you don't write anything. So the file exists. Okay, the file it exists, is there, but JIT or the VCS doesn't know that it exists. So that is known as untracked. Okay, the file exists, but it's not on to the version control system yet. Okay, next is the middle stage. Now, you have a file which is then your local system, and you need to add it to the VCS. So once you add your file to your VCS here, okay, a version control system, that is known as a stage change. Okay, it is there in your local repository, it is there in the version control system, but it's not reached the remote repository yet. Okay, so that is stage. It's ready to be pushed on to the remote repository. Okay, so in order to push this changes in code in the version control system, which is just a middleware between your local and a remote system, that is when you commit it. When you commit your file, it goes to the remote repository where you want to contribute to on the cloud. Okay, that is known as committed. So there are three stages, remember: untracked, staged, and committed. Okay, these are some terms you need to know so that you can get sense of when it comes to contributing. Okay, now there's one more command that you need to know. So for example, there's a local repository. When you have to stage changes, okay, that middle area where you need to stage changes, you write git add. Okay, git add your particular file, your folder, or if you want to add all the files in a particular folder, then you need to add git add p. Okay, that is a command given here. This will push all of your changes, all of your code from your local repository to the middle staging area, that is a version control system. Okay, that is git add. Okay, next is, as I told you, to push it from your version control system to your remote repository, we use the command called git commit. Okay, git commit, it is always compulsory to have a commit message. If not, it won't happen. So the VCS needs to keep track of what's going on. It keeps track with the version number and the message. So this is very important to give a message. Once you commit, it goes to your remote repository. Now, once you have committed your changes, okay, you need it is reached from the VCS to the remote version system. Okay, there's a remote version system where it's reached to. Now, in order for you to see your changes on the cloud, okay, to see your changes on GitHub, we run a very important command called push. Okay, so once the staging is done, once the committing is done, it pushes directly from the local repository to the remote repository that's in the cloud. Okay, it pushes the origin, that is a particular branch what you write your code in, to the remote repository. Okay, it just pushes all the changes. Remote, like remember, like pushing a thing. Okay, now what is pulling? Pulling, for example, is there are two people working on particular repository or particular code base, and now that person has made some changes. Okay, it's not yet updated in your local repository. Okay, so what we do is before starting your code, okay, we pull those changes what the other person has written from the remote repository. It's basically like an update to your local repository so that it's in sync with everything else. So that's what it does. It pulls the changes from your remote repository to your local repository. So pushing and pulling is very, very important when it comes to contributing, because these are two bare minimum things you'll be doing while contributing. Okay, now let's move on. How do you contribute? Okay, these are all the prerequisites you need to know before we start contributing. These are all the terms now that you all are familiar with the prerequisites and terms. Let's start the practical version of it now. Now, say you found a repository, okay, you want to contribute to. It's a remote repository, it's a project you're interested in. How do I contribute to this? Okay, so there is a feature called as pull request, which I mentioned earlier. Pull request is basically you want to create some changes in the remote repository where you want to contribute to, but you don't have any access to it. Okay, so what pull request does is it sends a request from your side to the person with all the admin changes and everything, that I want to contribute my code to your project. Okay, so you will be raising something called as pull request. Okay, so mainly what a pull request is, making it easy for developers to collaborate. Okay, so you'll be sending a request that pull my code into your repository. I want to keep some features in here. Okay, so now let's move on to make the procedure on how to make a pull request practically. Okay, so in the PPT here, we are going to, like, first it's mentioned the CLI way right now, the command line way of how to do it. But I'll be showing you the GitHub desktop way. GitHub desktop is basically the GUI representation of what you want to do. How whatever these changes, whatever procedure I'm going to show you now, it's all going to be on a GUI basis, so that you don't need to look at the command line that much. All this will be available to you, this whole procedure, at the end of the session. Okay, so let's get started. First, let's go to your repository. Okay, so this is a demo repository that we've created just so that we can show you the procedure, how it's done. Okay, so this, for example, keep this as an example. This is a thing we want to contribute to. Okay, so first thing we'll do is called forking. Forking basically means taking a copy of this remote repository which you don't have an access to and putting it in your personal account. Okay, just a copy. Okay, so what I'll do is, this is my personal account here. This is my same repository name, and as you can see, we are copying the master branch here. Okay, so then we are creating a fork in our personal account. Okay, once the fork is done, okay, once the fork is done, as you can see, there's a copy of this. I have all the code that is required for me to start changes. Okay, now that is the first important thing. Forking is very important so that it comes in your personal account. The next second step is to create a branch. What a branch is basically, see, as you can see here, this is the master branch. Okay, the master branch consists of some files of code. Okay, big projects. Now, in order to create a copy of just these files here, okay, we need to create another branch. Okay, so once we create another, you can just type here, okay, right here on GitHub. I just say I want to create a branch called demo. Okay, we'll be creating a branch demo from master. Okay, so what advantage this does is demo creates a perfect copy of master, and whatever changes you make in the demo branch, it's not affected anywhere else. Okay, only you can see them in the demo branch, not affecting the master branch in our repository, and it's not affecting in the parent repository also. So now that's done. That's your two important steps to create your own demo, and have set up everything now to do. Now, next thing is, what we need to do is we need to get this code onto our system. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll open this with GitHub desktop. So GitHub Desktop, you need to set up in your system before doing all these procedure. Okay. So we've also left a guide in the PPT later on where you can set up GitHub Desktop in your own operating system. So follow the steps there. Once you're done, you can do all this procedure what I'm showing you right now. Okay. So GitHub Desktop is already set up for me. Okay. We'll open with GitHub Desktop. So we allow open GitHub Desktop to open this application. So as you can see now, we have got a prompt to clone this repository. Cloning is basically taking it from the remote repository and putting it in our local repository. Okay, so here the demo is a repository. We're getting it from our link here. And a path, I'll keep it here in the desktop. Okay, you can keep wherever you want to keep, but I'll clone it here in the desktop. Okay. Now you'll also get a prompt here. Where do you want to contribute to? So as you're contributing to open source, you'll always click to contribute to parent project. Okay. You can also contribute when you want for your own purposes. When you're using your personal account, you can use this. But for now, for the scope, we're going to use contribute to parent project. I'm going to click continue. As you can see now, there has been a file created here. This is all your code that you need to know here. Okay. Also, it's very important a step which I mentioned when on GitHub Desktop is first fetch the origin. Origin means the remote repository, whatever it is. Whatever any changes were made before or anything, it will fetch and it will keep it ready for you here. Okay. Next step is always change the branch here. Now you have created a new branch, right? Which was here, demo, right? We create a new branch here and we switch to it. Okay. So once you switch to demo branch, okay, it'll switch here too, and it'll be shown here also in demo here. Okay. And this is also updated with master. So we're now all set to go. Now go to your desired IDE. Okay. Open your code files. Mine is in the desktop here, so I'll open it here. Okay. This is just a basic script we've taken. Okay. But now if you want to make any changes, okay, like I'll make a small change like printf testing. Okay. Now I made these changes, make sure to save it. Okay. You will see that this thing is modified here. Okay. And when you go back here to your GitHub desktop, you can see that these files are changed already. Okay. There's already a line of code being added. You can see your changes. And now you're ready to push your changes to your repository. So as I've told you, always keep a small message because it's very important. Okay. So I'll just keep update hello.c. Okay. So now once you're done with your description and your title, you are ready to commit to your branch which you've created. Okay. Be careful of the branch. Always make sure that the branch you've created is there here. Okay. Then we'll commit to demo. Okay. Now once you're done, your commit is over. Now we need to push it. Okay. So there's already an option here to push origin. Okay. So as you can see, this makes it very easy as compared to the command line. So you can get everything here only. Now, once you're done, you're totally done here. You've done everything on your local system. It's time to go back to your GitHub repository. And this is where you get an option. Okay. So demo had some pushes a minute ago. Okay. So now whatever you want to, you can start contributing now. There's something called as pull request, as you can see here. So we click on compare and pull request. Okay. As you can see, we have already got the base repository where we want to contribute to the parent repository, that branch here, and your repository from where you will be contributing to. Okay. So then after this will be gone here. Okay. I hope everybody's following. So now it will be gone from your local repository to the master branch. Okay. So you can always update here, write your description here. Always remember to write a description so that the people know what's going on. Okay. And you can also see your commits here, what is going on. This is how you make changes and this is how you collaborate with other people. Okay. So now we'll create a pull request. Once that's done, you can see that it's checking whether there's any conflicts, anybody have pushed and pulled or anything. And as you can see, an open pull request has been created. Okay. So that's all about how to create a pull request using GitHub Desktop. Don't worry if you found these steps a little overwhelming. I know these steps can be a little overwhelming. You'll get the whole thing what I showed you right now is there in the PPT. Okay, you can refer it later on. I'll just be quickly going through the CLI way, whatever I told you now. Okay, you have to just write it in comments. Forking, we're done already. Then next you have to clone your repository. Now how I clone it using GitHub desktop, you have to just write a command here, git clone your repo name. Okay, same thing what I told you. Now I created a branch in GitHub directly. You can do that too, or you can create a command like this, git branch, whatever the new branch name, you can run this command in your terminal. Then I switch branches, okay, there in GitHub desktop, but here it just check out in your terminal only, because you have to switch branches. It's very important. Okay, and this is how the visual representation of branch works: a copy and then it's merged later on. Okay. Now, whatever it is, any changes, what do you make? As I showed you in GitHub, the whole history is shown how it works, and we make the necessary changes. We push the code at the end. I showed you the pushing origin. We do that, and that's how you get your changes onto GitHub. Then I also show you this part where you can compare and pull request. Once that code is pushed from local to remote, no, you, in order to contribute, need to raise a PR. This is what a PR means. Okay. Once you're done, you can create a PR, and that will be sent. That contribution will be sent to the person you want to contribute to the organization you want to contribute to. Then, if they like what you've done, if everything is up to the mark, there's something called as merge it. Merging means your PR has been accepted, your contribution has been done, the contribution has been okay, and now it will be added to your contribution list there. Okay, so make 4 of these. Please, everybody do participate in Hacktoberfest, as it's a good starting point. And yeah, that's it. Whatever resources, whatever links are there in the PPT will reach you at the end of the event. That's my time. I hope everybody understood, and I hope everybody participates in this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shivam. We now know what Hacktoberfest is, how Git works, and what the exciting goodies are. But are there any projects that the participants can contribute to? Let us now move on to the most interesting part of today's session. I now request Abhilash to brief us about the projects.
Hello, everyone. I hope I'm audible and you can see the PPT. Thank you for Shivam and Manish Resta for briefing everyone about what open source is and how you can make contribution to open source. Now let's get to the exciting part of today's session. How do I get started? I now know what open source is, and now I know how to contribute also. But where do I find projects to actually contribute to the open source? And or I'm little afraid of going to the outer world to contribute to all big projects, and I don't know where to start. So fret not, we GDSC JSSSTU, we have our own few projects in our GitHub repositories, and you can contribute to them by doing all the steps that Shivam has taught you in the previous slides. So let me give you a brief disclaimer before I show you all the projects we have for you. These projects, what we have made, are bare backbone projects. They are not, they are not complete projects, and they are all beginner friendly. They are very, you can understand them as you go through the code, and they are very bare minimum projects. We have 2 web development projects and an Android projects and a Flutter project. We have both front-end contributions for you to make and back-end contributions for you to make. So fret not, if you don't know back-end, you just know front-end, you can go for the front-end, UI changes, etc. And all of the issues that we have for you are very easy to follow, and we are there to help you. And let's get started with all the projects we have for you. So first project is a web development project. It's called as Classrooms. So there are times when your teacher, when your lecturer calls you and asks you to find a classroom that is free to engage the class, but you don't know where to which classroom is actually free. And you go across all the lobbies to find a class which is free. You go through the Golden Jubilee a lot of times. You go to PS Blog. That's a very hectic job for you to do. But this project will help you to find a class which is actually free and where it is, what is the class, and at what time frame this classroom will be free, etc. Everything will be shown in this dashboard of the classroom project. And as the GitHub repository link is present in this slide. You can find the links after the session is over, and we'll share you the slides in our Discord server. So the next project, it's a chat room project. It is also a web development project. It's a forum kind of thing. Often you want to discuss about certain topics, whether it be like programming related or development related, or any of that sort, and you want to discuss it with seniors or a fellow developer or something. This chat room will help you to do so. This is a basic chat room where you can log in, register, and talk to people who are in the chat room and make contributions there. So the GitHub repository link is present in the slide. You can go through it later. And next project is an Android project. It's called as Sparket. So for example, let me give you a scenario. You come to the college and you feel difficult to find a parking lot to park your vehicle. And I know it's really hectic, because our campus has a huge parking space, and there are a lot of vehicles coming and going out of the parking lot, and you don't know where to park your vehicle. So this project this app will help you find a perfect parking space to park your vehicle. And it's an Android project, and it's the GitHub repository is already present. And the next project is a Flutter project. It's called as College Buddy. It's like a dashboard, personal dashboard, which has a lot of feature in it. For example, it has a to-do list. You create a plan for your entire day, and you just tick it off in your diary. It's just that thing in this app. And also it has a timetable where you can store your class timetable, your exam timetables, or your calendar of events and etc. All those timetables will be present in this dashboard. And it also has reminders. We forget a lot of things, let's be honest. And these reminders, this is a reminder app. It's a clubbing of a lot of features in a single app, and it's a Flutter project. And you can contribute to this also. So yeah, that's it about all the projects we have for you. And you can start contributing to all these projects by going on to all these repositories that are present in respective slides, and you can go and start contributing to all these projects. And each let me tell you one thing. Each project in each repository has certain issues by mean the problems that are present in these projects, and we found those problems, and we have placed and we have marked them. There are beginner friendly issues which you can contribute to. For example, any UI glitches or any UI changes you can make, or any front end changes you can make. Those are all the beginner friendly issues that are present in each of these projects, and you can contribute to them also. And if you want, if you are very confident that you can work on with the backend stuff, you can you are very confident that you can do all the advanced contributions. You can go with the advanced backend and database issues that are present in these projects, and you can work on that. And fret not. All this contribution, the journey with this contribution, it might get overwhelmed at some point, and if you get stuck at any point, we'll be there for you to help in our Discord community server for Hacktoberfest 2022. You can text us there. You can ask any doubts. There are seniors and developers that are present in the Discord community server and will help you a lot to go through all that. And if you want to do it independently, you can always go to Google. You can go to all the resources there, and we have also put the resources that you will be needing to solve those issues in the issues tab. For example, Stack Overflow or MDN Docs or etc. We have all those resources which you need, or you can contact us through Discord community server. And what do I do after contributing to these projects that are present in GDSC's repositories? I have done my contributions. Now I'm confident to contribute to those projects that are present in the outer world. I am ready to do it. So I don't know where to search for it. So here is a kickstart for you. There is this website called as goodfirstissue.dev, where you can find a lot of open source projects that are out there to which you can contribute to. And that will be a great starting point for you to be an open source developer. That's it, guys. And if you have any queries, you can turn on your mic and ask, or you can put it in the chat box. And that's it from my side. Over to Boa.
Thank you very much, Abhilash. These projects will definitely aid the participants in their open source journey. Thank you to all the speakers for this insightful session, and thank you to all the participants for attending. So if you have any queries, please ask them in the chat box, or you can unmute and ask them.
Advait, yeah, the GitHub student pack is available to all of us. We all got it by sharing our, our ID cards and everything. You scan your ID card and you can, upload it as proof.
Hi Shivam, this is Advait.
Yeah, tell me.
I recently uploaded mine. Mine was just the library card. We still have not gotten the ID card.
No problem. Any kind of proof would do. It would take some time actually. It took 1.5 months.
Actually, mine got rejected. That's the reason I'm asking.
Or rejected, huh? Okay, so one thing you can do is you can upload your fee acknowledgement, fee receipt.
Okay.
For upload your fee receipt again. Okay, reapply. And I think mostly if you get in, they should see some kind of acknowledgement, an ID card they mentioned. But I also didn't have an ID card at the time. Okay, I uploaded my fee acknowledgement and it got accepted.
Oh, I'll see to it.
Yeah.
Thanks, bro.
No problem.
Please feel free to ask any questions. There's no hesitation at all. Okay, if there are no further questions, we can move on. So as the speakers have said, please make sure that you've joined the Discord server. The link has been posted in the chat box as well. So as Abhilash has mentioned, and as Shivam and Manu have mentioned, joining a Discord server will lead you to a lot of resources. You can meet like-minded people, and you can get your doubts solved, and you can interact with seniors and other people. So you'll be benefited greatly by joining that. Yeah, and what better way to end than with a pun? May the open source be with you. Thank you all for attending today's session.